welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
You know, those first conversations, getting to know someone, work always comes up, doesn't it?
Almost always. Yeah. That's a standard topic.
So today we're going to really dig into some practical English phrases for that.
Mm-hmm.
How to ask about someone's job, keep the chat going, make it feel natural.
Exactly. We've looked at an English learning podcast episode that focused right on this. Our goal is to pull out the really useful stuff for you.
Because asking about work, it seems simple, but it's actually a big way we connect, right? Learn about people.
Definitely. And doing it well, it opens doors. You learn about different fields, what people are passionate about, maybe even their challenges.
Yeah, like each question is a little key, unlocking a bit more of the conversation.
That's a good way to put it.
And the podcast we looked at, they had this nice analogy. Learning English is like building a bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And every phrase, every little bit you learn, it's like adding a brick to that bridge, connecting you to others.
I like that. So this deep dive is about adding some solid job question bricks to everyone's bridge.
Exactly. So let's get building. First things first. You meet someone new. What are the absolute basics, the foundational questions?
Well, the podcast really nailed down the two most common ones. What do you do?
Right.
And what's your job? Simple, direct, everyone understands them.
Okay, so those are the standard kind of everyday options.
Yep, your reliable starting points in most casual chats.
But what if things feel a bit more formal? Maybe a business meeting or, a networking thing.
Yeah. Good point. For those times, a slightly more, let's say, polished option is useful.
Like what?
May I ask, what do you do for a living?
May I ask? Okay, so that adds a layer of politeness.
Exactly. The phrasing itself signals a bit more formality. It acknowledges you're asking something potentially personal, especially in a professional context. Shows respect for boundaries.
Got it. Like putting on a slightly smarter outfit for the question.
Sort of, yeah.
Now, here's something I sometimes wonder about. What if you get the feeling the person isn't, thrilled with their job? Asking directly can feel a bit blunt.
That's a really common concern, actually. And the source material had a great suggestion for this exact scenario.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of the very direct, what do you do? Try something a bit gentler, more open. What kind of work do you do?
Oh, what kind of work? So the focus shifts.
Precisely. It's less about their specific title or company and more about the general area or type of activity. It gives them more room to answer comfortably.
That feels much more considerate, especially if they're maybe not feeling super positive about it right then.
Right. It avoids potentially awkward moments.
Okay, cool. Now, what if you already know a little bit? Like they work at a certain place. How do you show you've clocked that?
Oh, that's a great way to make the conversation more specific. If you know the company, just ask, what do you do at company name?
Right.
The podcast gave the example, oh, you work at Google. What do you do there?
Yeah, that immediately feels more engaged, doesn't it? Like you're actually listening and connecting the dots.
Exactly. It moves past the generic question and shows specific interest. Much better flow.
Okay, so they've told you what they do. How do you avoid the conversation just stopping there? What are some easy follow-ups?
The podcast suggested a couple of really natural ones. First, simply asking, do you enjoy it?
Simple, but effective.
Very. And another good one is, how long have you been doing that?
Ah, okay. Both show you're interested in their experience of the job, not just the title.
Exactly. They invite a bit more sharing, a bit more personal perspective.
And that do you enjoy it question? Their reaction can tell you a lot too, can it? Beyond just the words.
Absolutely. Tone of voice, body language, it all adds layers.
The source also mentioned another follow-up, one aimed more at the positive side.
Yes. This is a really nice one. What's the best part of your job?
Ooh, I like that. Why is that one so effective?
Well, it encourages people to think about and share the rewarding aspects, the things they genuinely find engaging or fulfilling.
Right. It naturally steers the conversation towards positivity.
Yeah, and people generally like talking about the things they enjoy. Often leads to more enthusiastic and insightful answers.
Makes sense. It taps into what motivates them. Now, the podcast we listen to, It had a little role play example, didn't
It
it?
did, yeah. Between a Jack, who was a teacher, and an Emma, who was a graphic designer.
And what did that show? What was useful about seeing it play out?
It really illustrated the natural flow, starting with, what do you do? Then Jack asking Emma, do you enjoy it?
Mm-hmm.
And Emma's reaction when she learned Jack was a teacher, she said something like, that sounds cool. It just showed how these simple questions and responses build connection.
So it wasn't just about firing off questions.
Not at all. The role play and the podcast discussion around it really highlighted the importance of active listening.
Oh, yeah. Crucial for any conversation, really.
Totally. Really paying attention, showing you're engaged through nods or little comments like, oh, really? Or that's interesting. It makes the other person feel heard.
It turns it from an interrogation into an actual exchange.
Exactly. It's
Right
going to
on.
be a two-way street.
Okay, so what about the situation where you ask someone what they do and, well, they're not working right now? How do you handle that sensitively?
That's another important point that the podcast covered. It introduced the phrase between jobs.
Between jobs. Okay.
It's generally seen as a polite and sort of optimistic way for someone to describe being unemployed. It suggests it's a temporary phase, a transition.
It sounds much better. Yeah. Less final or negative than just saying unemployed.
Right. And using it yourself, if someone tells you that's their situation, also shows understanding and tact.
That's a really useful phrase to have in your back pocket.
Yeah.
So thinking about the whole conversation around work, what was the main vibe, the key message from the source?
Honestly, the biggest thing was just the emphasis on politeness and kindness.
Just being decent, basically.
Pretty much. The podcast made a point of saying everyone's career path is different, full of ups and downs we might know nothing about.
True.
So approaching the topic with genuine interest, but also with empathy and respect is really key.
Yeah, a little consideration goes a long way, especially when you don't know the full story.
Definitely.
So let's tie this all together. Why is getting comfortable with these, small talk job questions actually so important for English learners?
Because mastering these everyday interactions builds huge confidence.
Right.
Every time you have a smooth conversation, even a short one about work, it reinforces your skills and makes you more likely to engage again. It's momentum.
It's like successfully laying those bricks we talked about for the bridge.
Exactly. Each successful chat strengthens that bridge, making your communication in English more robust and effective.
Okay, great stuff. So to wrap up this deep dive, what are the absolute must-remember points for asking about someone's job in English?
All right, the essentials. Start simple and direct with things like, what do you do?
Okay.
Adjust for formality if needed. Maybe use, may I ask?
Yeah.
Be sensitive. Consider, what kind of work do you do?
Right, the softer option.
Show interest with good follow-ups like, do you enjoy it? Or what's the best part? Listen actively. That's huge. And be polite and understanding, remembering phrases like between jobs for tricky situations.
Excellent summary. So if someone listening wants to take one small step today to practice this, what would you suggest?
Just try saying the basic phrase, what do you do? Out loud a few times. Maybe add a follow-up like, do you enjoy it?
Just get the feel for it.
Yeah, just hearing yourself say it makes it feel less daunting when you use it for real. Get comfortable with the sounds, the rhythm.
Perfect. Laying that first brick nice and solid.
Exactly.
And maybe a final thought to leave everyone with. Think about this. Now that you have these tools, these different ways to ask, how many more interesting conversations are waiting for you? How many different life stories can you connect with just by confidently and kindly asking that simple question?
It really opens up the world, doesn't it? Building those bridges, one conversation at a time.